All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thanks for taking time out of your busy schedules to stop by today and join me. I'm Stephen Jackson with Imprintables Warehouse, and today we're going to be looking over Corel Draw 6 and see what's new on there, what you can use in your shop, and hopefully a couple cool tips and tricks and some very, very neat new tools, and hopefully it'll help you all out. So we've got a couple of poll questions. I always like doing those in the front of the webinars so that we can get that information in. These ones are going to help us kind of streamline and look ahead to future webinars and get a little idea what you guys are looking for. So hopefully the first one will pop up here.
Hi, Stephen. Thank you so much for joining Great Garment Graphics today. My name is Jody. I'd also like to extend a very warm welcome to those of us attending. And with that being said, let's start the poll. So the first question is, do you currently make rhinestone designs?
Just looking to see what everybody out there is doing. If you're doing rhinestone designs in your own shop, not necessarily making them, you could be buying pre-made rhinestone transfers and doing that also. Just a quick, easy yes or no.
Okay, I'm going to close the poll here, share the results, and it looks about half and half, 50-50.
Oh, interesting. I actually thought it'd be a little bit higher than that. At the different trade shows, we're seeing a lot of rhinestone stuff out there. So
and the next
one coming up
Yep. The next one is, do you currently make multimedia designs?
What we mean by multimedia designs, it may not be 2 layers of vinyl. We're talking about using a specialty vinyl with another one, or plastisol transfer and a specialty vinyl, something that's using 2 different processes or types of products. So it could be rhinestones and vinyl or anything along that line.
And let's see the results here. 71% say yes and 29% say no.
Yeah, I kind of thought that one might head that way too. It seems like that's becoming more and more popular, also from getting a little extra money from the products that you're making. Okay.
Then here's the next one. Which market do you wish to expand into more? Either sports, corporate, retail, or other?
Should have had an all on there for me.
Right. It's so true.
Just pick the one that best fits where your business is looking to expand into right now.
Give it just another second. And close it. Looks like we're breaking it up into thirds. So a third for sports, a third into corporate, and a third in retail.
It couldn't get any more neck and neck than that. That's about perfect down the line. Okay, thank you.
And then the last one is, do you currently offer signed media products?
Another pretty straightforward question. If you currently make and produce and offer those signed media products out of your shop, or even outsource them and sell them out of your shop.
57% say no. They're not currently offering signed media products.
Okay. That could be a very good webinar coming up, maybe possibly showing how they can use existing equipment to make those signed media products and expand their business with no real extra overhead on equipment. Outstanding.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for all the answers out there and participating in the polls. Thank you, Jody. So let's hop into the webinar now. So Corel Draw, which version are you using? I talk to a lot of people out there. I do a lot of education and training and work with the different companies installing equipment. And I see everything. I just recently encountered somebody who was using Corel version 9 and was very happy with it. But when they saw some of the changes all the way up to X6, it was quite a significant difference. Now, most people we run into are using X3 and on up. With X6 now, there's a lot of different features, a lot of new features in it, and we're going to go over each one of those in there. So to find out which one you're using, you just have to look in the upper left-hand corner, or it should tell you when you open up the program what version you're using and see what the upgrade is. I believe that Corel has a limited time upgrade to X6, so if you are using one all the way back to X3 and want to bump it on up to the newest version, now would be the time to do it. So here's a quick overview. We're going to jump back and forth in between here and Corel and spend most of our time on Corel itself. I want to talk about the performance boost that you see in this. This is really important with the newer computers out there and people who are taking advantage of the 64-bit infrastructure system. If you have a computer, say that's using Windows 7 64-bit, the new Corel X6 takes advantage of that 64-bit architecture and is much faster, has a higher performance to it, and just it seems less buggy to me. I've been using it for a while. I was on the beta development team for it, and it's just tremendous in the performance boost and how fast it operates. We can do different blends and different applications within it. Say I'm choosing a lot of objects and manipulate them at the same time. It seems to perform so much better. And even in the 32-bit version, I'm seeing some of that performance boost. Not nearly as much with the 64-bit version, but still it is faster. It's a much more stable platform. X5 had some issues with it. Admittedly, it was a great program. X4 was a little bit more stable than X5 in my opinion, but this version X6 here is a fantastic one, very stable, performance boost across the board. If you're using a 64-bit system, it's definitely a change in what you've been used to. So how do we see what's new in the version? So say I've got Corel Draw and I've got Corel, and this version that we brought up here, X6 is showing. And give it a second to update on your screens out there. So we've got X6, and going through it, I've got it set up right now so you guys can see there's different areas that are highlighted, like the snap to, and you can see over here on the tool there, they've got a little highlight to them. So if you set up the Corel Draw and you want it to be able to show you what's new in there, it's fairly simple to do. All you have to do is go over to the Help menu right here, drop that down, and then you've got this one right here, Highlight What's New. Now, I really recommend you have to know what version you're coming from, and you want to highlight what's new since that last version. And right now I've got it since version X5. So say I was working with X3 and I click on this, you'll see that there's a whole bunch more up here that's highlighted, like this table there, all these tools here, the Corel Connect, and there's things even through the print menu and all the way across. There's a lot of changes since X3. So what you want to do is make sure that it highlights that so that any time that you're going through and playing around with the different items in there, it'll be highlighted and you can see right away, hey, that's an update since the last version I was at. So again, go to the Help right up top here, highlight what's new, and then pick the version that you're coming from into. So right now I'm going to say X5 is what I'm going from. And we're going to look at the most recent changes in there. So with highlighting what's new, let's take a look at the vector tools. Right now I've got a design on here. This is just a simple polygon that I drew out. You can use the polygon tool to do that over on the side here. And when you click on those, they have a little triangle in the corner of them, kind of a nib. And if you don't see all the stuff there originally, like let's move off of that, come over to this again, and I don't see all those other items in there, I can just kind of hover and click on that nib that's in the corner and it opens up a side menu, and I've got all the other things. So in this one I picked the polygon, drew my polygon in there, and now maybe I want to change it around a little bit. I'll use my Node Edit tool, so I'll come up here to the Node Edit tool, the shape right there, and there's a shortcut, F10. I stress it in all of my videos online and all the webinars. Learn your shortcuts. It'll speed up your production and all your graphics work and everything. So whenever you see it off to the side there like this, the little F10, you just take note of it, and if you use that tool a lot, learn the shortcut and use it in the future. So we'll click on that. And some neat stuff, this isn't anything new, but a lot of people don't realize it. I can grab that point in here, one of the nodes, and I can change the whole shape of this design by playing with those nodes. So maybe I want to twirl it around a little bit and get a design like that. So now I've got something that's totally different from the original before. So let's take a look at the vector tools that are with that though. So we'll go back over to our shape tool and click on the nib. And we've got 4 new vector tools in here. These are brand new to Corel. They didn't exist anywhere before in it. So we're going to go through each one of them and show you what they do and how they work. The first one on the list is the smear tool. So we'll click on that guy there. And we get a couple tools up top here, well, little adjustments to the tool. I can do pointy smear where it uses the curves with sharp corners, or I can do a smoother smear where it smooths out as it goes along. If you're using a graphics tablet like one of the Wacoms or anything like that, you can use a pen pressure on that. And then we've got the nib radius or size. When I come in here, you can see the little circle that I've got there for the radius. And one little side tip that you want to know about is what I can do is I can hold my shift key and just drag, left click and drag my mouse down, and that'll change the nib radius. You can see it getting real big there and come on back down. And we can move it around after I let go of the shift key. So I hold shift, left click and drag, and I can change the size of it. So let's zoom in on this point here. Actually, I want to change that outline. That's a little heavy on there. So let's take it down to like a 3-point or something like that. There we go. And we'll go back to our smear tool. Maybe I'll change that radius down a little bit. There we go. And we're going to do a smear. So I want to make a, say, like a thorn coming out of the sides of this. If I click on it and click towards the outside, you see how it kind of smeared that out and drug everything out? And I can do it several times and keep dragging that out if I want to until I get the shape that I want. Maybe I want to curve it in a little bit more there, so it almost gets like a flame look there. And we'll do one behind it that's kind of going along the same line, maybe not as much. And we'll drag it around in there. We can do one going the other way. And you can just smear around with this so you can see how that tool, I can interactively work with the design, and that's still all in vector format. You can see my nodes that are down in there. I could take any one of these nodes and go to my node edit tool, which F10 was my shortcut. So I'll just hit F10 on the keyboard, and I could say take this node and delete that, smooth this out a little bit, and that looks pretty good to me. Maybe get rid of this one. And you can see how that smear tool can really change the look of the object and how you interact with it, and you can be much more interactive with your graphics on there. So that's a smear tool. Let's play around with the rest of them here. We've got, I'm not going to quite get to the twirl. Let's try attract and repel. So on attract, same idea. I can change my nib size by holding down the shift and dragging it in or dragging it out. Let's do a little bit smaller here. And we'll do attract. I'm going to take it and just click inside of here and see how it's drawing that point to it. Maybe let's do it over here so you can see. I can keep drawing that point out. Maybe I'll draw up here. And I don't quite like how that looked right there, so we'll draw off of this one and drag it out. And we come in here, and if I've got it overlapping on both of these and hold it, you can see how it drags the 2 points together. If I go into the center of this circle, let's make it a little bit bigger, and do my attract, you'll see everything in there come in. Just draw it right in. So it's almost like a magnet that's just attracting everything into it and changing the way they interact. So I can drag this guy around, and I can keep working with that attraction tool and just keep dragging it. Now I can stretch that way out there. Maybe I'll take my outline on this and take it down to 1 point. Oop. Let's select the whole object, take it down to a 1 point, and you can see that point a little bit better there. We'll go back to our attract tool. So maybe take this one, and I'm going to attract it up, both of those, but I grab both of them right there. So you can make kind of a fluid movement with everything. If I do the reverse of that, we've got the repel tool right here, and the repel tool does just the opposite of that. So I can kind of push things back in here a little bit and work with that design there. Oh, I lost that design. I unclicked on it for a second. So maybe I'm going to push this in here a little bit and make that a cave in there, a concave area. And now I could take that one and switch back over to, say, my smear tool. And I'll grab this nub here, this little bit, and I'll smear that in and kind of drag it around to a new point. So you can see how we can do a lot of interaction with these. And this whole area in here, maybe I could just delete those nodes and make that into it, and I can make kind of like a flamey look on this end here. I know it's kind of a mess right now, but you guys get the idea. So we've got the smear tool, our attract, and then the repel tool. And there's one more in here, the twirl tool. This one I think is very neat. I've got to play around with it a bit more. You've got the tool itself and the nib size, and then you've got a rate at how fast it changes this. So let's take this down to, say, maybe like a 20. We're going to change that rate, and I want it to go, this shows it's a clockwise twirl, so what I'm going to do is apply it in here and try to make all these guys twirl up. So let's make our nib. I held down the shift key while left clicking and moving, so I've got all these. And I'll click the twirl, and you see how it's making everything in there twirl around. So I can really make those points drag out. So let's come back into this portion and twirl those, maybe up in here a little bit. And you can just do some very funky things with this and make it twirl around. And I didn't like that. I maybe want to make that one go the other way. So I'll change the nib in a little bit, and I'll change the direction of it, and we'll twirl this the other way so it's kind of bubbling out, catching right there. So very neat effects you can do with this, and it drastically changes the way the graphic is. We started out with the polygon tool. We use a smear to change it around however I want. I can go through all these different areas here and play around with it. Make sure that you change your nib tool by holding the shift and left click and get it to the size you want. So I could do a big one here. Say I do that larger size, and I'll go to smear, and I want to drag a much larger section here up. So I can keep going with that all the way up to another point, just like that there. We'll do another one here. Bring it this way. So we almost have a trident looking thing. I can keep working with those points and get them however I want. So this is no longer anywhere close to what it was in the original polygon. Tools really make it so you can interact with your graphic a lot more than simply just editing some notes. So, if I wanted to take this before, let's try to take this guy over to the side here, and I wanted to make a point that came out, I would have to hit F10, my shortcut key, and add a node here and add a node there, and then I take this point in here, and maybe I'm going to make it to curve, and I'm going to right-click on this guy and make it a cusp. That looks like it already is a cusp. So I'll bring that out and maybe this one up and keep playing around with it, and I would have to add some more nodes. I don't have to do that anymore. I can just simply go over to my smear tool, grab a portion here, and start smearing it on out and get the effect that I want. Very cool new tools. So those are some of the new vector tools that are within Corel Draw and how they interact with it. So let's take a look at the next section here I've got down. I've got fonts as my next section. And what they've done with the fonts is they've started to integrate in the open type fonts where you can have different styles within that font. Let me make this a little bit bigger there. And change how we interact with it. So I've got this, I picked out Lobster 1.3, downloaded off of one of the free websites for fonts out there. And you can see across the font here, I've got a couple spots normally where we've got our different nodes there. I'll go back to my node tool, F10. And I've got the different nodes for the lettering in here. So you can see this one here, the B and the S, there's only one node for it. So if I grab those and move it out, you can see how this open type font has those two connected together. Well, say I wanted to interact with both of those individually. I can still do that. I'll take the font and I'll highlight it now. And now that it's highlighted, since it is an open type font, there are true type fonts, open type fonts, there's a bunch of different types out there. But this open type has this down arrow here, and I can click on that, and it shows me this is the original where they're all connected, or I could remove the standard ligatures. That's the connector in between them. So if I click on that one, and now go back to my node edit, you can see that they're separated. They're individual pieces now. So it's a totally different looking font, and it's totally different control between it. See how there's no connection in there anymore. And let's go back and highlight all of that. Drop it down again, and you can see I have the original or standard ligatures. So back to the original, and I can see that they're connected together. Oops, I didn't do what I wanted to. So let's click F4 and select all that. And then we'll go to standard ligatures. And that one there, I should have them connected. So right there, down at the type right here, you can see, oh, no, that one wasn't. So it's just the B and the S right there that are connected together. Now where this can also help you out is those of you that are CAD cutting out there, with any type of script font like this, you have to connect them in together. So if I go take a look at this in View and Simple Wireframe, you can see that the B and the S are already connected in there. I would have to go through the other individual letters on here and weld them together so that if I was cutting this, I wouldn't have that line going across there. So it's just a different way of viewing it, a nice way that you can interact with the graphic itself and the fonts that you're working with. There are a lot of open type fonts out there, and some of them have even more control than this, where when you do the drop down menu on there'll be a bunch more different open type fonts and changes to it that you can see in there. And you can see in this one here, they're connected, connected, unconnected there, and there's just different types all the way across. So you can play around with this. Another thing I really like with the fonts now is when you come over into here in your object properties docker, and you get any one of the dockers, you're going to go to the window, dockers, and then you've got all these different dockers in here. And see the object properties is highlighted. So as we found out from the beginning of this webinar, that anytime something's highlighted like that, it's because it's a new feature or has some new features in there. So when we look at it in here, all of our controls for the character in our typography are right here. I can change the font from there, make it underlined, change the size, percentage, fill, the background of it, my hairline or my outline for it. And it also shows me in here any of those types of ligatures or any other effects that it has with this open type font. I can do my strike through right there, overprint. Everything is controlled from over here. I don't have to open up a new window or go to text and work through all that. It's changed the way we interact with everything in it by including everything in the Docker. So it speeds up the process and puts the tools you need right in front of you. And I really like the way they've advanced these Dockers and made everything right at our fingertips, basically. So that's a little bit about the fonts and the change with that. Along with that on the Dockers, I'm going to show, say, let's go back to our vector tools, and we'll select this graphic right here. Take a look at this Docker over here. And before, we had to go into a lot more interactive windows to get to all these different features that are in here. We have our nib on this, and let's change the point of that, see if we can see it a little bit better. You can change the nib and how the angle of that goes. Maybe make it skinny and off to the side so you can see how that affects the outline around there. I can tell it the tilt of it and the angle and change how thick it is. And you can see interactively how it changes everything on there. I can round out my corners on this. I can do beveled corners. Everything is controllable right from this interactive menu. So we can change how everything's there. Behind fill, that changes it drastically. And I just love how all these controls are right here. My fill controls, I can open that up and get right into the different dialogues. Say I want to pick a pattern fill, and I can apply that directly to it. Gradients, I can do it right in there. However you want to do it, it's controlled from over here. And you've got your summary and the internet connections to it if it's a link or something like that. And you've got everything controlled right through here. So the way they've set up the Dockers now makes it a lot easier for you to access the different controls for each one of the tools and where you're going with your graphic. So move on to the next one. Here's Power Clip. Before, whenever we did power clipping on a, say, X5, X4, and X3, anything like that, I'd have to put whatever I'm going to power clip, and I'd have to make sure it's behind the graphic, and then I would power clip it into it. And you'd have to go into a whole other menu to get to all the power clip features. With the way that Corel X6 interacts with everything now, it's all integrated very easily right from the page that you're on. So I can take this power clip thing. I've got a bulldogs across here, and I've got a couple outlines on it. And again, I could jump back into this, and maybe I want to go into my outline of it and change it to a rounded corner or something like that. I can grab the style right here. Oh, it opened up in a different window there. Picking the wrong one there. I've got a window that's up somewhere, and I can't see it. So hang on a second. I'm sorry about that. There we go. Yeah, no, it's still trying to get me into the wrong spot there. Okay, here we are back to it. I apologize for that. So I could take my graphic here and break that apart a little bit. And say I wanted to round out the corners on it and play around with that. I could adjust all the different things in here, say the color or anything like that, right from my Docker still over on this side. But now I can take my power clip item here, and I can go to Effects, and again, it's on top of it. It's not underneath it like we had to in the past. Go to Effects, Power Clip, and Place Inside Frame, and I'm going to pick that Bulldogs right there, and it brings it right up into it, and now I've got the Bulldogs power clipped into it. Now, on top of that, I can interact with that power clip layer without extracting it and changing it. I can do everything on the fly. I can edit the power clip right here, so if I click on that, I can see just the power clip layer with my outline of the Bulldogs in the background, and I could change maybe the sizing or angle or anything like that, so I could change this here and bring it over. I can do anything I want with that, and then when I'm done with it, go back and you've got your little button right here for stop editing contents, and it's going to put it back into it. I can select power clip contents, and that just selects the contents that are in there, and now I can interact with the sizing and anything like that directly from the same layer that I'm working on. So I can say, well, let's make that a little bit smaller, and I'll bring it over, and I guess I got to make that a little bit wider right there, and I can work with the item within there. Maybe I want to give them an angle, change that a little bit in there. I can do all of these interactive tools right from there. And then when we click outside of it, it gets done with interacting with that. I can come back over, and I can still extract those contents and bring it out and interact with it over here. So maybe I want to change the size of it. Okay, and then once it's extracted, I need to go back and power clip it back in there. And I can lock the contents to it. I've also got some center the contents or fit contents proportionally. And proportionally, see for this one, it's not going to work very well. But I've got some more tools over here. I can fill the frame proportionally, stretch contents to fill a frame. So it's stretching that way on it. And that's not what I want with this graphic. But I've got a lot more tools here that are open to me. So it changes the way we interact with power clipping. And before, we used to have to extract the contents, change it around, get it to where we wanted to, and put it back. And I don't need to do that anymore. I really like being able to select the power clip contents and still have everything visible on the screen where I want it to be. I can change it around and get that design where I want it to. Maybe I need to, I clicked outside of it, and select the power clip contents, and maybe I want to change the angle of it in here and get it so that it's going down on there, or make it straight across. However I want to play around with it, I can. And if I wanted to extract those contents, I can still do that. I have all of the controls that I had before, but it's a much easier interaction tool that I can access right from here. So there's a lot more that we can do with it right from the main page. Next on the list is color styles. So let's take a look at color styles. Here we've got a graphic, and I've always been a big fan of the color styles docker in the past. This one here, I click on the color styles, they've changed the way that the docker interacts. It's a completely different interface. It looks different from everything it was before. I've used color styles quite a bit in the past to be able to change the way a graphic looks and take a look at it. Say in this one here, if I was doing it for VersaCam, doing print and cut, I can see on my screen that the black that I have in there's not a true black. Let's ungroup all these guys. And I can tell right off the bat that, yep, that's not quite a deep black that I would want when I'm doing print and cut operations. So normally I would bring it over and drag it into the color styles and then select the individual colors and work with those and change it throughout the graphic. Color styles has always been a way to change across an entire graphic all your colors. So those of you that are maybe doing separations, or you're doing a vinyl application on this, and you want to get it down in number of colors and work with it, you would drag it over there and maybe merge a couple colors or something like that. So let's see how this one looks now. When I grab let me go back a step. What I did is I took everything in here and I'm selecting everything. So you can either draw the marquee tool around it, or I could have simply hit Control-A and that'll select everything within that graphic. And then I'll drag it over here, and right here it says drag here to add color styles. So we're going to drop all those colors in there, and there is all the colors in my graphic now. And I can look across it, and I've got all these different colors. Maybe I want to start grouping some stuff together. So I'll take the two blacks and I'll put them near each other so I can kind of merge those. That guy, why aren't they moving for me? Of course it doesn't do what I want it to, right? Oh, I had another window change over here, sorry. That's why. So we'll take this guy and move him. And this one, we'll move it up here. And I'm trying to get some colors together that, grouping them together. Like on the flames, I've got the yellow, the orange, and this red. And I think that orange right there is actually his tongue. So we'll just move these guys here. I want them together, these two black colors. I'll hold down the Shift key and select both of them. And I could come over here and I can merge them. I'll go right to this guy here and merge it. So now they're a single color. I can also take this color right here and use my color picker tool. And I'm going to come over to the RGB black, and now that's a nice deep dark black that's going to print out a little bit better for me. So I've taken those two colors and now singled it into one. I could take a bunch of these pinks, and maybe this one I'll hold Control and take a couple of the pink colors here, and let's merge those and see if that took a little bit of it out of there, but we've got two different colors. And I can do this throughout the graphic and merge it down to get it so that I have a lot less colors in here. All these little grayish colors, I'll take those and merge them together. And you can see how I can work across the graphic and get it down so if I wanted less in vinyl across there. The two yellows, we can take those two and make it one, and so on and so forth. Now another cool thing that we can do on this, something that is really unique, is work with color harmonies. What I mean by color harmonies is I can pick several colors within the design and make it into a harmony, and then I can change the way those colors are working off of each other to achieve some totally different effects. So maybe I wanted to change around Famous Dave's here a little bit, and I'll hold Control and click the colors that I think I have in my flames here. I've got a yellow and orange and the red color, and I think those are the ones. Actually, yep, I think those are the three, so we got all them. And let's try it. We'll take it and put it into a harmony. We're going to generate a harmony out of them. And now I've got those three colors in a harmony. I drug it right over to there, or you could have hit Create a New Harmony. And you can see how they're interacting with each other. If I want to kind of mute it down, I can drag those in. And you see how it changed across in those flames. It muted it down. Maybe I'm going to make it a little bit more vibrant and bright, a little darker in there. And you can see I drag them out there. Or if I really want to change things around, let's drag all these guys over and make a totally different look to it. And now my flames are purple and greenish color, or maybe I want a green in a different tint right there. So you can change how those harmonies work together. It's keeping the distance between them separate. I can also change single one of those colors and then change the harmony in there. So we can affect this quite a bit just by moving everything around. And the harmonies are very fun to play with and see how they interact. So we're back to that there. If you're trying to achieve a totally different effect with a graphic, you can do that quite easily by playing around with those in there. So a little bit about the color styles docker and how it interacts. I can change a little bit in there, make them darker or brighter, make it more vibrant. There's a lot of tools within here, and it's one of those that I encourage people to play around with. I'll take this one red here, and maybe I'm going to make that one a different color. I can bring that out or change it over here. And I'll take the orange right there, make that a more vibrant. And my yellow, maybe I want the yellow to be, let me grab that yellow. I want to make that a different color over here. And now I've changed the entire harmony. You see how I'm doing singles in there? I can drag just one and change it all the way across. If I've got all three, I'll hold down the Shift and click all three, and now they're going together. So we can change that individually or as a harmony in there, just simply by selecting one at a time. So now we'll select this guy and bring it over here, maybe change my orange there and bring our deep red, and that changes it and makes it much more vibrant. Very neat way to affect a graphic, and you can make several color harmonies within the same graphic. So I could take the different browns within there, maybe that are within these ribs across here, and select the different colors and play around with those. It's just one of those tools that when it first came out, it kind of blew my mind a little bit, and all the things you can do, and I don't even think I'm hitting anywhere close to the tip of it. You can change a single color, multiple colors, make a harmony between them, and change the way a graphic works interactively and on the fly. So that's a little bit about the color harmony docker, or color styles, I'm sorry. Now the next one that I've got on here is contour. And this one for me was another one of those fantastic new tools that I could play around with, and does quite a bit for me. And I open up the contour docker over here. Again, all of the dockers that I have open, you go to Window, Dockers, and you can see it's got a check mark next to it. That means that the docker's open. And I like to set up on the left-hand side, I've got my color docker and object properties, so I can play around with those two, and all my other dockers are over here. If you have more dockers on your screen, say let's add a couple more dockers here to give you an idea. And we'll do a bevel, and I'll drag that guy so it's with the rest of them, and I'm looking to get it so we've got extras on here. Come on, they don't want to drag together, do they? Uh-oh. We'll give it a second here. There it went. If you get so many dockers over here that you have too many, it'll add a little bar over here so you can expand it and get into those. So we'll go to Window, Dockers. It just took a second. I've got a lot going on the computer at the same time. Maybe we'll do Bitmap Color Mask. We'll drag that guy in with the rest of them. Give it a second. And now there it is. We've got that little pop out here. I can choose which one's on top. So maybe I'll switch over to the contour. And if you need a little bit more room, you can always collapse the whole docker and bring it over. And the same with this one here, collapse the docker. So that gives you plenty of room on the screen to be able to work with. I do like having my dockers open and very easily accessible. So what I've got on the screen here, I'm going to show you the changes with the contour docker and how this is significant to anyone out there who's doing any type of vinyl cutting or any type of print and cut operation, say like a roll and VersaCam. I've got a pretty simple one on here, the star design. I just drew a star real quick on there. And before, whenever I did contouring, I would come on over and I would get the contour tool out and open it up, and then I've got all my options up top here and everything. And that's how I've done it for years, working with different contours. But now with the interactive contour docker, how it has it here, I can do all the same controls that I did up there, but a lot more. I can choose how to interact with it and apply it once at a time. So let me give you an example. Here's the star, and let's fill that star. I'll make it a red star, and so you can see what I'm doing a little bit better here. And I want to contour out, so I'll select outside contour, or maybe I'm going to do a 1/4 inch out. So we'll hit 2.25, and it hasn't changed anything on in the graphic yet. So you can change all your settings and then apply it at the end. So I get down to the end and I hit apply, and now you can see how it's contoured out. Maybe I want to do 2 or 3 steps. I'll hit 3 and I'll finally hit apply, and it's going to put those steps on there for me. So we'll take it back down to 1, and again, it doesn't change anything until you hit apply. That's always been there like that. We can do inside, outside, or to center. We can give how many steps, what we want on it. For me, one of the biggest changes is this little spot right here. Whenever we're contour cutting and we're working with a vinyl cutter, printer cutter, any type of equipment like that, something a lot of people miss on is if you've got a sharp corner, say like these ones out here, these sharp tips, the blade is traveling up to that tip, and when it gets to the top of it, it's got to change direction and drag back the other way. Sometimes if you have, especially if you have a lot of those like that, you're getting to the point, and I'll zoom in on this a little bit, you're getting to the point where that blade doesn't have enough time to react properly, and it kind of pulls the material. And you think you might be having problems with your blade or with the material or something like that, when in reality it's just going too fast for those sharp corners. So what I've done in the past is anytime I have a lot of sharp corners like that, I would come over and on this design here, I'll have to select it, and I would have taken it and I'll break it apart. So I would go to Arrange and break contour apart, and then I would take the outside one here and zoom in on it a little bit. So we'll hit the Z key, and I'll just do this corner over here. And I know that's going to be a sharp corner, and it might be problematic, so I'll hit my node tool, which is F10, or we can go to it. So I'll add a node here, I'll add a node there, and then I would take this one and delete it, right-click on here, and make it to a curve, and let's drag that guy out and make it a little smooth. So now the blade is coming down, and it's got a chance to turn. It's not a drastic sharp point and yank it on back. So that's a little bit of work to do in that, and on some designs it was necessary that I needed to edit into it and make it something where it's easier for my cutter to work with. So we'll step back a few here, and there we go. We'll take it back down to 1, hit apply. And what I can do now instead of that is round the corners right here. And simply by clicking on the round corners and hitting apply, you'll see that it automatically rounds out those corners. it's a great addition to it. And in this one here, maybe that's a little too rounded, so I could work on that portion there. But it's done the work for me and rounded out the corners and made my life a lot easier in editing this out. So if I were to come back and edit those out afterwards, I can work with a little bit easier. So we'll take that down to say like 0.15 and then hit apply, and again it does it. So you can see it rounded that right out there for me and made everything a lot easier. If I were now to break that apart, either arrange and break apart, which I already did, but the shortcut key is Control-K, and I could hit F10 to get into my node edit tool, and I can see there's a node there, a node here, and a node here. So if this was too sharp, I could grab that node and maybe bring it out, but I didn't have to add anything in there or do anything. It's already accomplished it for me. So for me, this is a huge step in working with graphics, especially in something like this here. We've got a graphic that has a lot of different points and nodes in it and everything, and I want to try to use this for, say, print and cut operations on a VersaCAM, and I'm going to create a contour line or a cut line around it. So I would use the step that I've shown many times in my videos. I'll select everything. So I've got, well, actually, let's get that star out of the way. We'll just delete this for right now. And we'll hit F4 and make this fill the screen. So I could draw all around it or select all around it using my pick tool, or I could hit Control-A, and I've got everything on the screen. So I've selected everything, and then I've got my weld and trim functions. Nothing new in those guys right now. But come down to the end and create a boundary, and you can see it created a line that was around there, and there's a lot of sharp corners and a lot of spots that it could be problematic for cutting. But I'll put that one back. I hit Control-Z. And now I'm going to use the contour tool to kind of bubble out around it, where I want to get a nice rounded area above this and around all the lettering there, so it's not cutting directly into it. I'm going to have a white area, say, around this one here. So maybe we'll expand it out. Let's see what 0.15 looks like. And we'll hit apply. Oop. You can see it went in. I had it to the inside, not the outside, so I made a little mistake there. All I have to do here is hit outside confine, and I can see where it's at here. That's not too bad. I've got a lot of nodes on the inside, so maybe I'll bump that up. I'll make it 0.20 and hit apply. That one's a little bit better. I don't have any inner points that I have to go around and delete out or anything like that, and this would make a nice decal for the roller derby team. But look at all these points, all the jagged points there and all the way around in this area. There's a lot of spots that could be very problematic for when it goes back to cut. So go back over to my round corners, click on that one, and I hit apply, and you can see how it rounded out all those corners. Now it's not getting the inner ones. I'm going to have to go back and do some of those, but it took a design that would take me maybe a good 15 minutes or so sometimes to go around, depending on how many nodes and everything there is on there, and it made my life a lot easier. So another great tool within there, another addition within CorelDraw. And you can also, I can change back to sharp corners and hit apply, or I can do bevel corners. Maybe that's something you're looking for, and that bevels it. But for final cutting operations, the rounding of the corners is really a key element and adds a lot to this. So now I've got it all set on there, and I don't have to worry about anything. So that's a little bit about the contour docker. There's a lot of tools in here. I've touched on a few of them, and it would take probably a lot longer than this to go through everything that's in here, the new ones. And again, anytime that there's a highlighted area, I could go back to it. And the object properties, you can see all the new features in there that we talked about. All the menus, you can come on down through them and see where there is a new area in there. You can insert page numbers now on the active layer, all the layers, odd pages. So if you're, say, making a pamphlet or a flyer or something, or a booklet, you wanted to have the numbering on there, you can do it on there. All the page number settings and how to control that in there. Your layout toolbar, change to how it's up there. Nothing on the arrange, the contour and power clip, we already talked about those. Nothing new on the bitmap. The text, there's a lot of new stuff on the text. I encourage you guys to mess around with that. Not just the open type font support, but there's having all the controls in the Docker once again is huge. The table, depending on what version you're coming from, if it was X5, X4, X3, the table tab itself and all the functions from that may be new to you. So if that is new to you, take a look at those and play around with it. There's a lot in there. The color styles, and then object styles. I'm not going to really get into it in this one, but object styles is another neat one. This would be more for people who, say, are designing up maybe catalogs or even sales sheets. Say in your shop you're working with one of the local high schools, and the high school has different sections within it, and they have different color shirts that they're working with. Or maybe you're working with several high schools and you have the same type of design going across there. You could make a multi-layer or multi-page document that has linked object styles in between it, where all the shirts, I have them linked together, so I could pick one of them and change the object style, and it'll change the color of all the shirts within that document. So I can make flyers or maybe order forms or something like that and control many of the different objects within it through this object styles. So another very neat change to Corel X6. And then the window, obviously the dockers and toolbars on the toolbars, we can add those toolbars up to the top. So don't forget the highlight what's new right here. And the hints, having that one open on our hints bar over here, which is kind of nice. Do I have it showing? Hints right here. The hints, when you're working with different objects or tools in there, it'll come up and show you a little bit of a hint over here on maybe some suggestions on how to control that different tool and what you're working with. So say we'll grab the rectangle. As soon as I grab the rectangle, you can see how it changed the hints over here and gave you a couple how-tos and kind of tips on it. And then there's videos on some of these that are interactive with it that'll show you how to work with the different tools. So hints is actually pretty powerful, especially if somebody's just getting into Corel and learning a whole bunch of stuff on it and want to understand the tools a little bit better. You can work right within Corel itself and see how those operate. So that's an overview of the different tools and the changes within Corel Draw. Sounds like Jody's come back on here. Let me double check my sorry about this. I'm bringing back up the PowerPoint slide. Oops. And of course, it's getting me. So we covered, come on, there we go. We covered the performance boost, how to see what's new from the last version, the different vector tools, how to work with fonts, those open type fonts, and the different dockers, and how it's much more easy to access the features and what you're working with. The great new features within PowerClip, the color styles, and the contour docker, my favorite, which has made my life easier. There is more than, like I was talking about, the object styles, and it really depends on what version you're coming from to X6 on what changes are in there. That's why it's important to highlight those and go pick through them. So, any questions that have come up?
Stephen, there's actually just a couple questions. The first one is there a way to print all the fonts without typing in a sample of each one? For example, to show customers the fonts that you have to offer?
You can go through the Bitstream font navigators with Corel, and you can work with that a little bit. I think there is some print features in that. If that person wants to shoot me an email, I'll take a look and see if I can find an easier way to do that. What I see most shops will do is they'll pick out maybe 20 or 30 of the fonts that they want to offer up. Like on my system alone, I've got a couple hundred installed in Corel. And then I've got over 13,000 fonts that are available in our shop. I used to have a big old book that people could flip through and everything, and it gets to be too much. But if that person wants to send me an email, I'll see if I can find a way to do that for them. And if we can, I'll make a video out of it and post it up for everybody.
Great. Thanks, Stephen. And then the last question Ron wants to know, he had said, you may have covered this, but how do you set the cut contour color in Corel Draw 6?
Okay, the cut contour color in Corel Draw 6 is actually much easier than it was in X4 or X3. X5 had the same features as X6, so it's 4 and 3 you had to bring it in. In X6, the easiest way to work with all the roll and what he's asking about is the roll and burst works colors and the cut contour. Correct me, Ron, if I'm wrong. I think that's what you're asking there. The easiest way to do that is dockers, so window and dockers, and then the color palette browser. This guy, I know I have it open. Color palette manager, I'm sorry. They used to call it the color palette browser, but now it's color palette manager. And when you click on that, it opens up a docker over here. And let me open that docker up. Where are we at? Color palette manager right there. And within the color palette manager in X5 they did this, and it's also in X6. you've got all your palettes are listed out here, and you'd want to open up the palette libraries and go to Spot Color Libraries, and they have a roll-in folder in here now, which makes life so much easier. Inside the roll-in folder, it has the roll-in color system library, the metallic colors, and the one you're looking for, roll-in VersaWorks. This little oval next to it is actually supposed to be an eyeball. It's either open or closed. So if we close it, you can't see it anymore. You saw it go away on the right-hand side there. And when I click it again, it comes right back. So now I've got that roll-in VersaWorks library that includes cut, contour, white, gloss, and metallic if you have a printer that has those specific features. So that's actually a question I get often. So hopefully, Ron, let us know if that was what you were looking for. X5 and X6 both have this feature in there. Huge change. Makes life a lot easier than having to make the custom spot color library, drag them all in there, and all that kind of stuff. So.
Yes, Ron did say that's exactly what he was asking about.
All right. Good, good. So no other questions?
No, that pretty much wraps it up for the questions, Stephen.
Okay. Well, we're ending a little earlier. I thought there might be some more questions from this, but I guess maybe I had them all. Great.
Right, right. You covered everything.
There are, like I said, tons of new features. Please let me know after the webinar, or if you're viewing this on the recorded one, let us know what video and webinar ideas that you're looking for. We want to get the content out to you guys. We want to supply what you need to get the job done out there. So you can send them to me, or Great Garment Graphics also has an info email that you can send it to there for some ideas, and let us know what you guys are looking for. Next and last slide we've got here is just a splash page. You can contact me at Imprintables Warehouse, imprintables.com. My email is stephen@imprintables.com, and those are our 800 number will get you to the main office there, or my desk phone is 518-630-6655. Love to chat with you. If you have some questions or something I can help you with specifically, please let me know. And the person with that font question, let me know, and we'll do some research and find out for you. The next webinar is on July 24th. Thank you, everyone, for coming here, and we'll see you hopefully at the next one.
Absolutely, and thank you, Stephen, for presenting. And to everyone who attended, enjoy the rest of your day.